Still my eyes and I will see you through on this bittersweet journey. Take my hand and I will lead you to the so-called end. Hold me tight and I'll forgive you for making me stay. Tell me lies and then I'll leave you, 'cause lies are made.
They say in the village that you healed that boy of a gunshot wound down in the master cell with just a few plants. Pablo, Rosie's brother, said as he followed me around the woods, carrying my basket I was using to put the material in for Imai's teeth. They say you're a healer, that you can heal by just touching someone. I laughed at him, shaking my head. Sometime, but it has to be the Father's will. You know what I mean? He nodded. I wish I can do that. Shh, I'd be rich. He thought for a moment. Back home, you must make a lot of money. I shook my head again, standing on my toes to pick a few pieces of bark off the old tree that resembled the American sugar maple tree. I don't accept money for my gift. Why not? He asked if I was crazy. I guess Pablo would think I was a little off. He wasn't much older than Dawid and Monroe, maybe 21. And at 21, it would be hard for him to understand that. Well, I told him, because Yah gave me this gift for free. So I give it to others for free. Who is, he began but stopped. He stared in back of me with a horrified look on his face. The poor boy was turning pale. His eyes had grown large in his head. Worried, I put my hand on his chest. Pablo, are you okay? I asked. He shook his head, still looking behind me. The hairs rose on the back of my neck. He dropped the basket and took off. He ran like death was coming for him. Slowly, I turned, and a scream froze in my throat. My knees buckled. Coming my way with a fierce scowl on his face was Gideon, and he held one of his guns in his hand, pointing it at Pablo, who, even as we were speaking now, was disappearing further into the trees. Then his fierce gaze flew back to me. Dear Yah, he was getting ready to kill me. Then I remembered that he had told me to stay in his room, and I had not. So, my feet made the decision for me and took off. I ran the opposite direction from Pablo, towards the village. This way, if he killed me, there would be witnesses. And he was a good distance away from me, so maybe I can make it to the village and somebody can hide me. I flew down the hill toward the houses. I could see people looking at me, wondering why I was running like the devil was behind me. And well, maybe it was because the devil was behind me. The image of him eating up the earth with his long, powerful strides, that big black wolf by his side, that holster over his shoulder, and that golden gun in his head, well, that image will haunt me for the rest of my life. I had to get away. I am pretty sure he's going to hurt me. I thought about that warning Dawid had given me last night. Dang it, why didn't I just stay in that room? Help me, I cried to a man that was sitting out on his porch. He looked behind me and hurriedly got to his feet. Then he went inside his house, shutting and locking his door. In fact, everybody that was out and about quickly did the same. I turned to look behind me, and I cried out because he and that black wolf was so close. He was now running, and just like Lion, his speed was amazing. And y'all, he was so mad. Father Yah, help me. The sound of car tires screeching came from the front of me. I turned around just in time to see a black truck speeding towards me, straight towards me. I skidded to a stop, but there was nowhere I could run. The truck was going to hit me. What happened next is something that if I wasn't here witnessing it myself, I would never believe it was possible. The big truck cut hard to the right, sending it speeding towards me sideways. The door opened. The big black wolf leaped over my shoulder and into the vehicle. Then a strong arm came around my waist. lifting me off my feet. And the next thing I know, we were in the backseat of the truck, all without the truck stopping or even slowing down. Lee was driving it. He wore the same look on his face he had worn when I saw him playing the PlayStation. Sending up a loud whoop, he turned the wheel hard, straightening the vehicle. I heard somebody screaming, and it took me a minute to realize it was me. I was half sitting on Gideon's lap, half laying on it. And then everything went black. I fainted. When I woke up, I felt different. I frowned up at a flower mural ceiling that was trimmed in gold. It reminded me of a picture I had seen of an opera house in Paris once. Slowly I sat up, blinking. I lay on a red velvet seating in some kind of dressing room, I guess. It was really fancy, not like Macy's or anything like that. This was the kind of dressing room one had to make an appointment to enter. But something was different about me. I looked down at my ankle, and around each one of them was some kind of gold band. I reached down to touch it, and I saw that there was a gold band around my wrist as well. "What is this?" I said, fingering the soft gold. They were beautiful. I had never seen gold bracelets like this. They lay on my skin like leather bands would, but I tried to slide it off. It wouldn't come off. "No, chica, they won't come off that way. You see the small keyhole at the bottom? It's only one key, and it's with me forever," Gideon said from somewhere behind me. I turned around. He sat in a chair while a very pretty girl stood over him braiding his hair. In his hand he held a small golden key that was on a golden necklace around his neck. "Gideon, what are these?" I asked, trying again to take the golden bands off my wrists. "Shackles, my beautiful slave." "Shackles!" I cried, turning back around to try to take them off with gusto now. The gold was soft, but it was not budging. How was this possible? Gideon, please help me take these off." I pulled at the gold. It was wide, but it wasn't thick. It felt like it should break easily in my hand, but it wasn't. It was like rubber. Tears came to my eyes as I tried to break them. "Give me a minute, Mona," Gideon said to the girl that braided his hair. She nodded, leaving the room. "Come here, Safia," he said, leaning back in a chair that wouldn't look so small underneath a normal-sized man. "No," I told him, trying to break the shackles off my wrist. "You're wasting your time. Enrique is sought after all over the world for his work. The things he can do with gold is beyond most comprehension. So trust me when I tell you, there is no getting those off, unless I take them off. So, instead of sitting there, being a stubborn little brat, won't you try getting up off the damn settee and doing what I said? Now!" He reached down into a black box that was lined with velvet and pulled out several strings of slim, beautiful golden chains in his big hands. "I really would hate to make that set complete by attaching these. But if you persist in acting like a little girl, then I will." You see, y'all, I have never hated a person in my life. I have always loved people. I didn't think I was capable of feeling hate. But hate is what I'm pretty sure I'm feeling for this man right now. Angrily, I wiped away my tears, standing to approach him. I stopped about 8 feet away from him, folding my arms across my chest. "Come closer," he said. I took 2 more steps. He pointed to the spot in between his legs. I didn't move. He moved the chains in his hands, causing them to rattle. Exhaling in frustration, I came to stand where he pointed. He looked up at me for a while without saying anything. I began to fidget because he was looking at me in that way that he did sometimes. His eyes, they roamed over my face, my hair, my throat, my shoulder. I reached up, lifting the dress back in place. When he looked at me like that, I felt confused. He made me feel strange. He made me want. What? I had no idea. But I'm pretty sure wanting is what I felt. Safia, I need you to listen to me very carefully. At this moment, Pablo is sitting in my dungeon. Your answer to my question is very important because it's going to determine whether he lives or dies in the next 5 minutes. I would have shot him earlier, but I didn't want to risk hitting you. What? I asked, putting my hand on my chest. He held up his hand, shaking his head. No, chica. You can ask questions later. First, I need to know if he touched you. I frowned. No, what do you mean? He was just helping me. I told Rosa that I needed to get something to make Ima Teresa's tea for her heart, and I asked her for a basket. She sent Pablo to get one for me, and then she told him to help me, that's all. I saw your hand on his chest. Why were you touching him? He asked these questions in a calm, deadly voice. A shiver went through me. Now I understood why he was so sought after to do his job. He was cold, and there was no other word that could describe it. I took a few deep breaths. He had me so afraid I couldn't even think straight. He had turned pale when he saw you coming. I thought something was wrong with him. I didn't know you were behind me. Gideon, he's just a kid. He was very respectful. He nodded slowly, his eyes taking in my very soul. Before he picked up the phone where it sat on the table next to him, he pushed one button. Let him go. But tell him I don't want to see him back at the armory. He spoke softly into the receiver. He hung up, putting the phone back on the table. I exhaled. Goodness, this man was a complete savage. He sat relaxing in his chair while my emotions were all over the place. I wanted to scream and cry. I wanted to hit him or take one of those golden guns of his and shoot him. Safia, I need you to understand a couple things. When I tell you to do something, I need you to do it. He shook his head. Disobedience is never an option. Do you understand? He spoke so calm. It made me want to hurt him. I folded my arms across my chest, not answering him. Answer me, Safia. I rolled my eyes, looking away from him before I nodded. Look at me. I rolled my eyes, turning back to look at him. It is extremely important that you stay away from other men. I'm sure a healer like yourself wouldn't want to be the cause of someone's death. He picked up my hand in his big warm palm, swallowing my smaller one. Right? He asked. Angrily, I looked down at him. You know what? I tried to snatch my hand from him, but that didn't happen. You are a cold-hearted demon, I hissed. He chuckled. That very well may be the case. However, I need you to acknowledge that you understand the things I have told you here today. Yes, heathen, I heard you. Good. Now, let's see about getting you some clothes that won't scratch your beautiful soft skin. He lifted his hand, and a second later the door opened, and a tall, glamorous woman sailed in with a dazzling smile on her face. She looked at me for only a second before her full attention fell on Gideon. Two younger girls came trailing in behind her, probably her assistants. The young lady that had been braiding his hair came back in and continued where she left off. And for the next few hours, between flirting outrageously with Gideon, Señorita Bonita pinned and poked, measured and stretched me to death. Lee came in and out, speaking with Gideon briefly before leaving back out of the room. He was conducting business with someone named Foster outside of this room. They spoke Spanish though, so I had no idea what kind of business it was. At one point, I came out of the inner dressing room for from changing out of one of the outfits and into another, and Gideon stood leaning against the door. A man stood next to him holding a tray of bullets. Gideon picked up each one, testing them in his hand. When I came out, our eyes connected for just a moment, and it felt like the breath slammed out of my body. His hair was finished, and now that it was braided, he had taken on a whole new look. He was still so beautiful, so handsome it almost hurt to look at him. But it was like when he wore that ponytail, he was a danger that I didn't understand, so it was easy not to fear him so completely. But with those braids that were so long they went all the way to the middle of his back, he became a danger that I knew all too well. Living so close to the west side of Chicago, how could I not? With those braids, he now looked like the dangerous thug that everybody feared. The ones that kicked in the doors, and the ones with the lifeless eyes that laid bodies down without losing sleep. The ones that you didn't want to look at the wrong way because it could mean your life. But with him, even more so, because add to the aura of all that I had just mentioned, add the fact that he was stronger than most men. And although I had not seen him in his warriors fight, if what Dawid said about them was true, he had skills that made him a well sought after mercenary. And to top it all off, he had a cold heart, and he didn't care who he hurt. My eyes went back to the golden shackles around my ankle. Senorita Benita gushed all over them, saying how beautiful and expensive they looked. Of course, she thought they were jewelry. I wondered if she knew they were shackles, would she still think them so pretty? What do you think? She asked, looking at me through the mirror. About what? I asked, my tiredness coming through my voice. I am tired physically and emotionally. The hour and a half sleep I got did nothing to rejuvenate my body. I just wanted to go home. I wanted my daddy. I wanted to be back behind his walls where I was safe. About your dress, silly, she laughed. But I could tell I hurt her feelings. She obviously was very proud of her work. I had tried on so many outfits, I had stopped paying attention to them, so lost in fantasizing about our escape away from this place. I took in my outfit. The white dress was kind of old-fashioned Spanish, mixed with a modern twist. The bellowy skirts had 3 layers of ruffle. The last layer was lace. The top fell off one of my shoulders. On my feet was a pair of open-toe white sandals that tied up my legs, blending in very good with the gold shackles. If I didn't know what they were, I would think they looked very pretty with the sandals. However, I knew the truth, so it was hard for me to see them for anything other than what they were. No matter how nice the clothes were, the shackles will help me to never forget I am a slave here. And if I didn't want to end up in chains, the ones laying on the floor in the black velvet box, I would do what I was told. It's beautiful, I told her, my voice sounding hoarse. I hated hurting her feelings, but I didn't have the energy to fix them. She sashayed over to Gideon, obviously done with me. Gideon, I am going to get my whole team in, and we're going to work around the clock to make sure everything you ordered is delivered to the armory by Friday morning, she purred. Gideon, who was looking at me, nodded. Good. If you can get it there faster, there's a bonus for you. Does she have enough outfits to last till then? Oh yes, more than enough. She rubbed her hand up his muscled arm. I shook my head, stepping down off the pedestal. That will be all, senorita, he said, dismissing the seamstress. She drew herself up, insulted. Well, she looked at me with envy before looking at her 2 assistants. Come, girls. The 3 of them left, leaving us alone. He leaned against the wall, watching me. You look very beautiful, mi princesita. My head came up. Oh no, He can't call me that. What did you call me? I asked, not hiding the fact that I was insulted. My daddy called me that. He cannot pollute that for me. He got up off the wall, and a look came on his face that reminded me so much of the animal at his feet. He took a step toward me, then another. My princess, he repeated in English. Now, maybe if I wasn't so emotional, I would have noticed the look on his face for the warning of danger that it was. But my emotions blinded me. You can't call me that, I said. His eyes narrowed. He took another step towards me, and then another. Why? He asked, now slowly stalking me. I backed up, now sensing the danger I was in. Because, I told him, closing my eyes when my back came in contact with the wall. He kept stalking me until he was standing so close in front of me, I could smell his cologne and the Tide soap his clothes had been washed with. Because what, mi princesita? I brought my hands up and pushed at his chest, so frustrated with him bullying me. Because that's what my daddy calls me, I yelled at him, tears coming to my eyes. His face distorted with rage. Yo, daddy, he hissed down in my face. I pushed at him again, not liking the way he said that. My daddy is more of a man than he'll ever be, and my daddy was too good to even come out of his savage mouth. He grabbed my hand, putting him above my head. Let me go, heathen, I yelled in his face, but my voice was hoarse. Our faces were so close that we shared angry breaths. And then, his lips were on mine, and my world exploded. His other hand came around my waist, lifting me off my feet so that our mouths were closer. I moaned when he deepened the kiss. I had never felt anything like this. I was soaring and falling and floating all at the same time. The only thing I can do was hold on as he devoured my mouth with his. His kiss was so much like him, a force that conquered. I cried out when he began to move my body so that it rubbed up against his hardness. How could this be? How could I hate him one moment and the very next moment be on fire for him? I broke my lips away so that I could take a desperately needed breath. But he didn't stop. His mouth moved down to my neck, which he devoured just like he did my lips. He now had both of his hands on my waist, lifting me up and down so that my body rubbed up against his own. My legs were locked behind his back, my hands behind his head, pressing him to me. I don't know what I wanted, but I needed something desperately. He reached up and pulled the top of my blouse down, and, well, I think I better fast forward what happened next. Needless to say, he awakened the woman in me there, in Señorita Bonita's dressing parlor, against that wall. At one point, he had brought me to the brink of discovery, and then he growled in my ear that I was no longer my daddy's princess, and that I was now Gideon's princess. Then he told me to say it, to say that I was now Gideon's princess. I said it. He wanted me to say it again and again. Now, we didn't go all the way, but oh, he had done enough to change me forever.